On today's child seat review, we're out here taking a look at the 2015 Lexus IS sedan. This is a Graco Classic Ride 50 child seat. This is a convertible seat suitable for rearward or forward-facing installation, and children between 4 and 50 pounds. The big thing to know about the Lexus IS is that price-wise, it's really not very far off of the Lexus ES, but the two are very different vehicles. The IS is a rear-wheel drive, sporty vehicle designed to compete with the Mercedes-Benz C-Class and the BMW 3 Series. The Lexus ES is a much larger vehicle. It actually is closely related to the Toyota Avalon, so we get an awful lot more interior room. The ES is more softly sprung, it's front-wheel drive, it doesn't have quite as much power as the IS, it certainly doesn't handle as well, but we get an awful lot more room in the back, both in terms of legroom, room between the seats, as well as width and headroom. That means if you're shopping in the Lexus portfolio for a vehicle that will accommodate the most child seats or the largest child seats, the ES is definitely one of those vehicles. It actually is almost the same size as the Lexus LS. Previous versions of the IS were a little bit smaller than their German counterparts, but that's changed in this generation of the IS. The most important thing to look at is combined legroom. That's front legroom plus rear legroom, because vehicles apportion their space differently. The IS has a slightly larger front legroom number and a slightly smaller rear legroom number than many of the competition, but if you put those two together, it's right about the same size as the BMW 3 Series. That is important when it comes to installing child seats in the rear. I'm going to go ahead and move this front passenger seat up till I have about an inch of clearance between my knees and the dashboard, and the back is in a relatively upright position. With the front seat in that position, I can barely install a rearward-facing child seat sitting right there behind myself at 6 feet tall. Now, if I did have this child seat latched into the vehicle properly, it would move a little bit further rearward, but it is in the proper angle for installation in this vehicle. The takeaway from this is that the IS performs very similarly to the BMW 3 Series because both vehicles have about the same amount of combined rear legroom. But you'll definitely find more room in this than in something like a Volvo S60, which has quite a small back seat for this category. You'll also find significantly more room back here than an Audi A3 or the Mercedes-Benz CLA, with which the base IS logically competes. I found a little bit less room in the Mercedes-Benz C300's back seat, but a little bit more in the Audi A4. The difference in width between the IS and the Lexus ES is very noticeable when you try and put multiple child seats in the back. You'll notice that this outboard child seat is really in the middle of that bucket seat, but the center child seat is skewed off to one side because the rear bench seat isn't as wide as you'll find in the Lexus ES. This means that in the IS, I was not able to properly install a center child seat if there was another child seat next to it. So I did have to put two child seats in the outboard seating positions. That makes this a little bit less handy than some of the vehicles out there. When it comes to anchors, the IS provides latch anchors for the outboard seating positions only and top tether anchors for all three seating positions. Now, some of you have been asking me about top tether anchors for rearward facing seating positions. Those are really only available in a very small number of vehicles in the United States because the US does not require them to exist. So most vehicles destined for sale in the US don't have them. Due to the size of this rear bench seat, I was not able to fit 3 child seats in the back of the IS 350. Now, unlike some of the other luxury brands, Lexus has more than one solution for this. You don't have to step up to the Lexus GS, which would be the mid-sized rear-wheel drive sedan, in order to fit child seats in the back. You can step across to the Lexus ES, which has an awful lot of room in the back, is similarly priced to the IS, but is front-wheel drive. The size of the trunk in the IS is another reason to buy one of the other Lexus models over this particular model, because this does have a fairly small trunk for the Lexus lineup, as well as for this category. You will find larger trunks in most of the other entries from the competition. Although the trunk isn't as large as some of the competition, the opening is fairly wide, and that makes it a lot easier to put child seats in the back. It's also fairly tall. One thing to note is that the trunk hinges on the IS do interact with the cargo, so you can't put cargo all the way up to the sides or all the way up to the top. Still, I was able to fit 2 child seats in the IS, and since that was all I was able to fit in the back seat, that's all I'm going to try and fit in the trunk. I can fit a 26-inch roller bag right in there with them. I could probably fit this 24-inch roller bag in here as well, and still close the trunk lid. Obviously, child seat and cargo hauling is not the IS forte. It actually is handling. The IS is one of the best handling entries in this segment. It bests the BMW 3 Series when it comes to feel as well as road grip for comparably equipped models. Obviously, there are BMW 3 Series models that will handle better than the IS, but if you're comparing like for like, the IS is accurate, it's nimble, and it's a joy to drive. That's really what the IS is all about. If you want the extra rear passenger room or extra cargo room, you're going to have to shop for a different model in the Lexus lineup. If you want to know more about the 2015 IS 350 F Sport, there is a complete review on my channel as well. You can also find me over at facebook.com/AlexandAutos, over at Twitter as AlexandAutos, and you can always email your questions to alex@alexandautos.com. I'll see you next week.